So is stress good or is stress bad?
Prolonged stress is not good.
Depends. Yes. Okay. So can stress be good? So there's been a lot of research done, and the research is summarized very nicely in a TED talk by Kelly McGonigal here. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend for you to watch, called How to Make Stress Your Friend. It's a very nice summary of that research, and basically what it says that stress is only bad for you if you believe that it's bad. Well, of course, now, very good to know that, but it doesn't mean that if each of us have been stressed now till this point, been running through life, struggling with your health, and now suddenly you realize that, well, if I believe it's good, it's going to be good for me, that change not going to happen like that instantly, right? So how do we make that change? I would like 2 volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come. Yeah, come. Okay. So now, all right, let's make some space. Okay. If you don't mind, then come other side here. Yeah. Yeah. Is that all right? Yeah. There we go. Okay. So now I want you both to imagine that you have just run a race. Not some sort of a marathon where you end up to the finish line and you can barely feel your legs. But let's say it's a short sprint that you've just done. Yeah? And one of you lost and one of you won.
It's 50-50.
Or other way around.
Have you done a half marathon?
All right?
Yes.
Okay, you win.
Okay. Let's swap it around. So let's say you win.
Oh.
And now you lost.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if I could freeze a moment when you have just crossed the line and you know that you won and you're full of this positive energy, how are you going to look like that moment? Can you demonstrate for us?
Oh,
If you're still in a run.
At the end of my half marathon, I
Yeah.
sprinted through that finishing line, and you know what? It was fantastic.
Okay.
I put that extra burst of energy in, and I might have been tired afterwards, but at that moment, I was full of energy, even though I'd done 13 miles.
Yes, great. So if you are still running and you've just crossed the line,
Yeah.
and if I could have like a remote control and pause you there, just that moment, how exactly it's going to look like?
Big smile on my face.
Yeah, big smile.
Still lots of energy, even.
Okay.
What else?
So if you go with your hands saying, yay, I won, where are your hands going to go?
Probably like this.
All right,
In fact,
wonderful, yeah. And because you're still running, your step probably going to be quite far, yeah, quite.
Yep.
So you're still in that action. All right, so now I'm going to freeze you here for a moment, yeah. So you need to make sure you keep that spirit of yes, I won.
okay.
All of these positive feelings, that big smile, and think of how grateful you are to have this opportunity. Yeah? And I'll come back in a moment. You guys keep an eye on him, make sure he does his job there. All right, so unfortunately, you have lost. Yeah? So how is your physique going to look like? Yeah?
Devastated.
And how are you feeling then? Yeah?
Disappointed.
Now, what makes the change in our physical body? What makes you go this
Your mind.
or that? Yeah. And what else?
Hormones.
Yes, so all of these cocktails of hormones that are released in your body. Yeah? Okay. So now you lost.
Yeah.
But if I could ask you, why is it a good thing that you have lost?
Because now I can train harder and come back stronger.
Okay. And what else?
Because I'm not standing there like that.
What else is there? Why is it a good thing that you have lost?
I don't know, but I feel better.
Just by being asked the question. Yeah. So again, we can come up with a lot of things. Why is it good? And what you have learned from this. Yeah. So even though you've lost, you might have learned some positive things out of it. Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
So once you change that mindset, the experience that you have just experienced doesn't become as negative and as all-consuming if you think you have just died. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah? You're still alive? Yeah? All right. So you take a seat. And now let me take an interview from this wonderful winner. Yeah? You can relax now and just tell me, so how do you feel now that you won?
But if I took it really seriously, I feel really great, because of
Okay.
course it's nice in a race, of course, to win, and crossing that line is knowing you're first, or knowing at least you made the time that you wanted to. If you take it on, is great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what else is happening with your emotions, with your physical body? Now that you won.
Well, of course I feel good, at least at that particular moment.
Okay. So do you feel great now?
In the scenario, yes.
Yes. Okay. But have you actually run a race now?
No.
No. Okay. But yet we are still able to put ourselves in that position as if we have. Yeah? And there is all of the science behind that to explain that if our physical state is affected by all of these hormones that are released in our body, just by changing our state, we can change the hormones that are released in our body. And we can change our emotions and our physical response of sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. And we can switch them over. Okay? Thank you. So, if we are to measure what that good stress looks like in terms of physical measurements, then there they are. You still have increased heart rate, and there is specific measurement for that, of how many beats per minute is that. So once it goes past 145, then parts of our body starting to lose their performance. And once it goes past 175, that is when your body goes completely into this complete fight, flight, freeze, and our reptilian brain takes over. If we can think of many sportsmen, any of you done sports and running and other things in your lives, stress can get you into that good positive state where your performance can be enhanced. And probably read and seen interviews of many successful people that have been interviewed and say, well, how did you feel and how did you do it? And they would describe all sorts of experiences, let's say throwing ball in a basketball and seeing all of the stadium in a slow motion and having enhanced tunnel vision. So all these things. This is what positive good stress can give you if we know how to get it. So the difference between the bad stress and the good stress, again, that there is that controlled heartbeat. So we're not allowing ourselves to go over, to go past 145. Then the blood flow is not leaving our clever, rational, prefrontal part of our brain. It's actually enhanced into those areas. And that's what enhances our senses, our perceptions, and our performance. And proportions of adrenaline and cortisol, which are stress hormones, are balanced by oxytocin, that are social hormones. So there's one crucial thing here, is that to turn bad stress into good, you need to have social connections and support. If you are loved, if you are cared, your body can reduce the damage that is done by releasing some positive hormones in there. And that is proven to fix at the cellular level, at neuroscience, neurological level of your body parts that are normally would be damaged by stress. How do we prevent that reptilian brain from taking over? So if we think of all of the threats that are out there, there are some things that we can put in perspective to make sure that we can reduce that environment that is similar to those millions of years ago, and we can make the most out of it. Breakfast. Very simple thing. Some people skip breakfast. They think, I don't have time to eat, I'm just going to have a cup of coffee. But then what happens, if your body has not received the dose of your nutrients, minerals needed, then it switches on that search. It says the scarcity of resources, so I need to search for food. So for the rest of the day, you'll be more irritable, you'll be more agitated, you'll be more picking on sweets and looking for things to carbs and all sugars to collect that energy for yourself that you didn't have in the morning. So it is proven that people who do not eat breakfast, they actually will eat more throughout the day. So for those who are trying to maybe control their diets, the best thing that you can do for yourselves is actually to have big breakfast with as many different minerals, nutrients, and everything else that you can possibly fit in to set yourself for a day. Changes in environment. If you are in a new environment, you don't know if it's safe. So you'll keep that vigilance at the back of your mind, and you'll constantly be monitoring and surveying the environment. It is now measured that even if you sleep in a new room where you haven't been before, one part of your brain doesn't actually sleep properly. Because, for exactly the same reason, it keeps that awareness of your environment. So if you're working, if you're trying to be more efficient, set for yourself safe environment. And safe means familiar. Practicing focused attention. Again, that is our ability to switch on what parts of the brains we are running. Are we controlled by our reptilian part of the brain, or are we able to compose ourselves and come back to that rational, reasonable place from where we can make decisions that will really serve our life. So we're not running on all these emotional impulses and Stone Age habits. How do we do that? Many practices such as meditation, yoga, and many others that can bring that mind and body balance, can teach you skills, and just small moment to compose and physically be aware of what's happening in your body might be enough to bring you back into the process where you have to be. And again, social connections, as mentioned before, it's very important that we have that support. We are social beings. For many years, our survival depended on others, and if we don't have those social connections, it really affects our ability to regulate our own emotions, because our hormonal neurochemical imbalances are out of order for us to function properly in that way. So, then the ultimate recipe for that would be your breathing, your posture, and your mental state. Now, if done correctly, all that is needed for your body to completely change your emotional state in terms of all neurochemical balances that are in your body is 2 minutes. So, as in terms of breathing, if we think when we are stressed, how do we breathe? Where is our breathing? Yeah. So we're just going to do a little exercise to compare 2 different ways of how we can breathe. So there's one way of breathing. It's called apical, and it's from shoulders. And this type of breathing is not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be there for us to breathe this way all the time. It's a supportive mechanism to get more air into our lungs, more oxygen when it's needed under the stress, to maintain that blood circulation where it's needed, but it should never be there all the time. So to give you a feel of how it feels like, I'm going to just put your hands on your lap, and now for a moment just pay attention to your breath. And now what I'd like you to do, with every breath in, you would raise your shoulders slightly, and you'll keep them there when you're exhaling. Yeah? So you raise your shoulders up with every in-breath, and then your shoulders are staying there when you exhale. So your next in-breath again, you lift your shoulders up, and you keep your shoulders high when you exhale. And you keep going, you lift your shoulders up, and you still keep your shoulders high when you exhale. And you keep lifting, keep lifting. And now keep breathing that way for a moment, and just notice how it makes you feel. What exactly is happening in your body when you breathe that way? What's happening in your mind? What's happening in your body? Yeah? Okay, so relax. It's not a pleasant state to be, is it? But very often we're doing that without being aware of that. We are tense, and then we suddenly start breathing this way. So the first thing to change again is being aware of it, and making sure that our breathing should be opposite to what the stress response would normally activate. And then by paying attention to this, we can do the opposite process. So now we'll do the opposite. When people are really, really stressed, they come to my door for some therapy, and they say, oh, I can't deal with this. And some people, they physically are not capable of breathing from their stomach. Then guess what I do? I lay them down on the floor, I take a stack of books, and I put it on their stomach. And ask them to lift the books with their in-breath. And then they get it. Then they get it how exactly you have to breathe with your diaphragm. Diaphragm is your king of breathing, king of confidence as well, if you know how to use it correctly. So it's learning to do that belly breathing with your diaphragm. Yeah? So if you want to see what difference does it make for you now, you can do exactly the same. Yeah? And on your exhale, relax your shoulders. And you make sure that on your inhale, your shoulders don't move. It's only your diaphragm that expands. So you're breathing in into your belly. So you breathe out and you relax your shoulders completely. And when you breathe in, your shoulders stay like that And you breathe in only with your stomach. And again, on your next out breath, you relax even more. Release all the tension from your shoulders, back of your neck. And you breathe in only with your diaphragm. And observe how differently you feel now to the previous one where you were breathing from the top of the shoulders. So just a very simple thing to see what big difference breathing can do to your body. It can completely switch our fight or flight mechanism into relaxation response. Yeah? So now exactly the same with your posture. So if you are just about to fight, you will try to protect yourself. So again, what you do, you crouch, slouch, shorten your neck, you protect your guts, you protect your genitals. And I guess we, working today in a modern environment, sat in the front of desks. What position we sat on? And how does it look like? So most of the days, we spend our days just like this. Yeah? So if we already know that our physical state affects our hormones and affects how we feel, then what does it do for our bodies? So being aware of making sure that we are not putting our bodies into that state as if we are fighting a lion. Because then your reptilian brain will straight away interpret it as if you are under threat and will release certain level of those hormones into your body that then again will have those negative effects on your body. And then mental state. Again, with the exercise, again, how do you reframe that experience into positive? And having a positive outcome. So stress is not necessarily about going there and dying. Stress is about going there, fighting and winning. And if we can see that before that happens, we'll be able to approach that from much better, much more positive place. Okay?